Marshelle.
Hi, Bridget. This episode,
We're going to talk about
what are the things that are going on in our lives?
it's kind of like maybe this might be like,
Yeah, sorta, kinda.
life lesson.
hi.
Hi.
Well, hi, Bridget.
Hello, Marshelle.
How are you?
I'm good. And how are you guys?
Yes. Thanks for coming
Welcome.
back. Good
Welcome
to see
back to
Sorta.
Yeah, Sorta, Kinda, a
Yeah, sorta,
podcast.
kinda. About life lessons and
unknowable things.
And what's this one? Kind of both? This episode?
Let's find out.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it would be.
I think it's a
bit
little of both for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to put it because
Yeah.
part of what inspires this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what's interesting. This topic was already inspired
Mm-hmm.
and it was already shot.
Yeah. That's
So
why we're both a
we'll
little.
let that sit for a second and then we'll explain a little bit more. So we're going to say this one is loosely on Mercury Retrograde. Mars goes retrograde sometimes too. So Mercury Retrograde, you'll have technical issues. It's a time to kind of like revisit old patterns and kind of move beyond them. A lot of people talk about having exes come back into their life, or they reach out to an ex, or they feel at least compelled to. So there's a lot of old, and not just romantic exes, it could be old friendships. It's kind of this time where things resurface to be dealt with if they have not been dealt with, right? But technically, the technical aspect of it, we ran into a little issue and are now reshooting this topic. So dang it, Mercury
And
Retrograde.
howdy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how. Yeah, that was, I think I just combined boy howdy and how. Boy howdy. That was, it was
Giddy up.
Giddy up indeed. That was quite the shock. But that has been more of my experience with Mercury Retrograde is technical stuff. Like
Same.
my phone doesn't work, or we had my thing just stopped recording. My recorder. Weird shit. Or your car.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of a problem. And what do they say about Mercury Retrograde? They say don't sign contracts, don't talk to exes,
Don't start new relationships.
Yeah, like all this stuff.
I feel like one of the parts I want to focus in on is this the revisiting of old relationships.
Yes.
That part really interests me because I would say that element has also come up for me, and I feel like it's coming up for me in this particular Mercury retrograde. But I want to caution to say it doesn't necessarily mean don't revisit it. It's more of be really aware why you're considering revisiting it. Be very, very aware why it originally didn't work out. And consider that all of those factors may still be at play, and that the reason it's coming up or that impulse is coming up to reach back out or any of that may not have to do with, okay, you and this person are meant to get back together. Maybe it's more of you're meant to look back at this time and reframe something about it in your mind. It could be that. It could be time to rehash something for yourself in association with that. Sometimes it's valuable to look back at who you used to be and how far you've come. And maybe that relationship is one of the best ways to reflect on that old version of yourself. But
That's an interesting way to put that.
Right?
Yeah, I
I
hadn't
do
thought about
happen to
that.
be talking to somebody who I used, like a very, 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 very old friend of mine. Like we go back many years. And that after a decade, I think we started to just check in just a few days. That's just like last week. I don't know how much I'm going to go into that, but that's what's on my brain.
I would say in regards to, they do say that like exes or people from your past will come back in. I have experienced that myself. I would say too, though, to expand on that just a little bit, I've always experienced that when it's almost like a test of I feel like I've gotten past some kind of a point that maybe I've elevated myself in some way, like raised that vibration, gotten past a habit, of something. And then someone from my past that maybe it was unresolved or maybe meant something to me, or maybe there was some kind of a connection. They always inevitably come back into your life.
Almost like a carrot's being dangled, like a test to see whether or not okay.
Did you learn? Are you going to go back to this? You know what I mean?
Do you need to repeat this pattern?
Yeah. Are we just going to fall back? You know what I mean? So that has, every single time. And, or especially if I've made a decision, like when Tommy and I, it was almost instant, like we knew. But of course, once he came into my life, all these people, from my past just kept popping up.
Isn't that interesting when that happens?
I find that
it's like the second you either say, okay, I'm done dating, I'm not interested. People come out of the woodwork and are like, hey, you single? And you're like, very not interested.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you get in a relationship and people from your past are like, hey, and you're like, nope, taken. Bye.
Happens, or I would be single. Now, you know this, I would be single for a really long time. And then guys from my past would text me. And one guy in particular was like, I miss you. And I hadn't heard from him in 6 months, maybe a year. I don't know. And I was like, no, you don't. I was over at Bridget's. And I'm like, this guy, no, you don't. That is literally what I would say. And he's like, I didn't. No, you don't. And it was always just this thing. And then I would wonder, is it testing me, do you, to go back into some sort of a phase that I was in, because I'd finally gotten to this place where I'd rather be alone than be with someone who's wrong for me. And this person definitely had elements that were similar to what I have now, but not right. It just wasn't right. And you can go and revisit those things, but what I think is important is that you don't romanticize it.
Right. That's so key. Go ahead.
But also to say, I've definitely been guilty of that myself when I've been single, of reaching out to an ex, because you think of something and, is it, but you got to question yourself. Is that boredom? Am I lonely? Am I romanticizing? Because I do think that's easier. It's like I always say, I don't know sometimes when we do break up with somebody, if it's that we're actually missing them. Because I think we're romanticizing, we're thinking about all the good. We're not really thinking about the reality. Or sometimes I think we miss what we thought this person was going to be, what they represented for us. I think that's key. I think that's very vital.
You have to wonder when you have that reconciliation or that potential reconciliation. Yeah. What if the purpose isn't because you two are supposed to re-entangle each other romantically? What if there was something unresolved and there's like a tension between you two, and this moment is really just about healing for both of you? Maybe you communicate briefly and then you go back your separate ways. I feel like it could be as simple as that, but that maybe hope gets involved. I think especially right now, why this conversation is so timely is because we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I personally have stopped even attempting any sort of online dating because to me, the pandemic just complicates it way too much, trying to meet new people and align in all of the ways. You're trying to find somebody that wants the same thing as you, but also things are so heated politically, socially, and then there's a pandemic and you also have to align on where you see safety for that. So it became too exhausting. So naturally, what do? We consider people that are maybe already in our lives, people that we already know, where you don't have to go through so much of the effort to start over.
I was going to say, but you know why? Because it's comfortable. There's a comfort level there of, especially when you've known them for a long time, you feel safe.
In and of itself bad.
No,
we're not saying it's bad. It's just, it makes sense.
But I think you do need to look at, okay, what will I get from this? Why am I, be responsible with yourself as to why you're doing this. Is this really a road I want to go down?
Yeah. Are you lonely? Yeah. Are you just reaching out because you're lonely? Or do you really think there's potential there? Have you grown? Have they grown? Any red flags from the past, have those subsided? And can you allow them to show you who they are now? Because what if they've changed for the better? Great. What if they've changed in ways that aren't so great though? What if they've made some poor decisions and they're just not the person they used to be? You got to let them, you got to do a little recon.
You do. And But then again, there is the other side of that. Maybe that is the romantic in me. I am a little romantic, that maybe it's the right time. You can't help but wonder that, especially if it was somebody, it's, okay, I'll use,
I mean, who's coming to my mind is my ex and his new person. Now it's the right time for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was like, which one? Yeah.
That doesn't even upset me.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was going to, let's say that something happened with Tommy and I and we split up, and which that's not going to happen, but let's say it did. He is someone though that I wouldn't give up on, to go along with what if it is the right time. I think it depends on the relationship and the person. I mean, let's say he and I split up and he got a hold of me 5 months later, 6 months later, or a year, 2. It would really depend on, because that's a connection that I can't explain. There's it's actually deeper. It feels deeper than love. It almost feels, it feels like something, not to be dramatic, but like it's written, that we're meant to be together. And so there's this deep love for him, but it's deeper than that. I don't know how to express this, but I don't think I could ever really give up on him. I wouldn't give up hope on him. Do you know?
I feel like a lot, I do know what you mean. And I feel like, unfortunately, there's other people who do that in relationships that aren't worthy of such faith.
That's what I was going to say. It depends on the relationship, though, and the person. Now, in my past, no. I would rather not even. I mean, I've done it. We've all done it where we try to go back down a road.
As they say, your person.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
Whether I want him to be or not, he is. Yeah. I mean, there's a connection there, and it feels like obligation, but in a good way. We owe that to each other. We need to always have that space for each other. I don't know how to explain that. It's just,
I mean, I think there are people who understand that, and I think a lot of people, at least when they take their marriage vows, mean it in the moment and intend on sticking it out through thick and thin. But you're talking about something, I think, even more on your heart about it.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'm married to somebody, just because a piece of paper tells me that I have to stay with them, I won't. I'll be with you until I'm not.
Something keeping you. There's more to keeping you with Tommy than just.
This feels like destiny. I mean, I don't know how else. There's probably another word for it, but that's what it feels like. It feels like we were meant to be together, and I always have that thing for him. But there was this movie with Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt and James Gandolfini. And Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts are a couple. And she's just so frustrated with him. And he's kind of, he can't get his shit together. And she's just, she just wants to kill him. His name's Jerry. I always remember her being like, Jerry, And James Gandolfini says to her, because she keeps talking about him and she's so mad about Brad Pitt's character. And James Gandolfini says to her, but at what point, though, this is his question, is it too much? And she's like, I guess now. And he's like, no. If it's the right person, it's never too much. And I thought that was really beautiful, but yet dangerous, because it depends on the relationship, but the right person. So I think that's true. But I think you have to, these entanglements with people from the past, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It could be good.
The word that keeps coming to mind right now is discernment. And how do you develop that? Because I mean, I know it happens to men too, but I'm a woman, so I can really only speak for myself. And it doesn't even have to be because I'm a woman. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah. There you go.
But discernment is something that has come from experiences and has come over time. And I've had to learn lots of hard lessons about love and what love also, because I can give a lot of love, but the question is that person worthy of receiving it, and are they going to receive it, and are they going to reciprocate it, right?
Yeah.
And so to be discerning so that you're not allowing yourself to fall so quickly for someone before you know whether or not they're worthy of it, you have to force yourself to pace yourself. But that also takes a lot of the fun out of it, because a lot of people are addicted to the beginning of the relationship, right? They want that fast, they want to fall. They want to fall into it. And I get it.
True.
And that's
so true.
Kind of the best part. It's kind of why it's called like the honeymoon phase. But, you know, at this point I've been around the block, and I've had to learn and nurture my discernment. And, so now I feel pretty confident that I can revisit these old relationships, and there's plenty that I won't even touch, that I'm like, peace out. Like, I have nothing to say to you. And that, I mean, that's really only one person. I'm not that burn bridge type person, but, I feel confident in my ability to discern. But, 10 years ago,
I don't know. On that. You touched on that at the beginning. I think you were talking about the people we used to be.
Yeah.
I want you to go into that, because that's a really, that's a great angle.
Well, okay. So because I'm chatting with this friend, we've been talking about the past, and, you know, we'd originally conversed a lot online, you know, back in the, I mean, we met before the millennium. Like, it was in the 90s, really. And I mean, we were just kids, but he and I were revisiting some of our old messages that he had access to and I didn't. Wow. And I was reading something that I had said, and I was like, who is this girl? Because the cognitive dissonance happening, without going into the specifics, it was basically like I was trying to convince myself that I was like, it was kind of like when somebody's like, everything's good, everything's okay, all is well, all is well. I'm at peace, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. Like, trying to convince himself. But meanwhile, the house is on fire.
Gotcha.
And this is, you know, we've touched on a lot in past episodes about that fine balance between positive thinking and being in denial. That was a girl in denial. That was somebody who was not considering that she had choices in life. And matter of fact, was probably feeling like a victim to her circumstances and was feeling very disempowered because of it. But now I can look back and say, yeah, I was choosing that. I didn't know. Now, granted, I can look at it with compassion. Like, I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to do, etc. I wasn't really looking at like I had paths I could choose. It just felt like, no, this is grandfathered indecision or whatever. But anyway, it was so fascinating to look back at that and to know that that's me, but that's not me.
Did you sound different? Did it sound like a different person to you? You know, like a different tone?
I mean, right away. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Because I don't speak from a place of cognitive dissonance like that. Like, I'm not in denial at this point. I think I'm very realistic, and I own my choices, and, you know, I'm flawed, but I'm not that girl anymore. And, I felt like, and I acknowledged it as I was reading through. I was like, wow. 'Cause he's like, what do you think? I was like, I am kind of perplexed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he was like, well, you know, it's kind of interesting to revisit, like, both of our versions of reality.
How was he? Was he different? Out of curiosity.
I mean, yeah, he's grown a lot, which is cool. Really cool to see. Like, I would say the best parts of his personality, because he's, like, seriously one of the funniest people I've ever interacted with. Like, he's just so witty and very charming, and all that's still there. But he's way more present. He's a much better listener. And
that's important, people.
Yeah.
You gotta listen.
Whereas he's still, like, he has the potential to kind of bulldoze a conversation, or at least he used to. Yeah, I think it's been really cool to see the growth for both of us. So in that regard, like, revisiting friendships and old relationships, I think could be full of, like, little nuggets of wisdom, but it kind of depends on discernment and what you're there to get. And because he and I never had, like, a romantic relationship, I'm sure in the back of my mind there's this part that's like, well, I'm not meeting anybody else right now. You know, like, I'm going to be honest, like, there's a part of the brain that, but I'm also thinking, like, we would drive each other nuts. Like, oh, Like, I just, like, I feel like also I just got a friend back. Like, why complicate that? Anyway, I don't know. No, I'm probably blushing or something.
No, not that I can see.
Okay, good.
But you probably
Well,
wait a minute.
makeup's
It does look a
working.
little blushy. It does look a little blushy, actually.
I only feel slightly embarrassed about talking about that. Just slightly. I'll get over it.
Yeah, I think if it's someone that's not, they're not abusive. Now that's the discernment. Like if someone's abusive, you can't stay in a relationship.
That's not
like
just
that, you
physical
guys.
either. That's emotional,
mental, emotional. Yeah,
if they don't respect you,
yeah,
yeah, like respect is a big one.
Yeah, you don't have to be hit to be abused. But I think if it's someone, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking to them.
Oh no, I have no problem talking to him. What I was saying is, there's this voice in the back of my mind that's like would entertain, at least mentally. Oh, is this somebody that I could ever just like? Could I see them romantically, or is this just meant to be a friendship? And I'm blaming part of that on the pandemic.
Yeah. Why are you blaming it on the pandemic?
Well, I'm very isolated, and I've resolved myself not to try and meet strangers on like dating sites. I'm not on any dating sites. I'm the last person I talked to for, I don't know, like 6 weeks on there. I just kind of decided that I don't want to keep doing this. It feels like a lot of energy, and I don't want to say it wasn't like a waste of time. I have time. It just felt like I don't want to spend my energy in that way.
Well, and people can present themselves,
channel it to other things.
Yeah, people can present themselves as the best, and they can be so witty with the banter, and but like to really, and you can't be in person with a lot of people at this point. That wouldn't be safe, unless you're like, okay, let's give this a shot. But I mean, there really is something. I mean, I think FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, Skype, whatever, however, FaceTime can be good. I think that can be really helpful, because eventually, the real person's going to come out. But
yeah, I also think, and I'm not saying this to get down on myself, but I'm an acquired taste because I have a strong personality and I'm very observant. And, I'm not going to shy away from conversations that some other people might think are uncomfortable or heavy or whatever. And like, oh, well, if there's friction, let's talk about it. It's no big deal. Like, it doesn't have to be scary. Like, and then you get it out of you air your dirty laundry or whatever. And then you go back to having fun and making jokes. That feels very easy and natural to me. But I realize that's actually not the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they feel like super on the spot, or maybe they don't have the best communication, or they haven't had the opportunity or the relationships in their life where they've gotten to express themselves. And here I'm like genuinely listening. I'm like, great, let's grow together. Let's be better versions of ourselves after this. And they're like, ooh, no, I don't want to be you to hold me accountable for shit. That's my job. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Noted. I feel like you've said similar things about your propensity to speak the truth, and how some friends just wouldn't ask your opinion on certain things because they know you would tell them.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Or even if I didn't say it, they could just feel. You're just like maybe. I'm like, but I didn't say anything. He's nice, and they're like, I can tell you don't like him, But I'm really pretty good at hiding that. I guess, I don't know. I guess certain friendships you're just, kind of tied in and you can feel the other. But I mean, I try not to be like that. But I also I just shut up a lot because people don't, like it's your choice. If you want to go down that road, go ahead. As long as he's not hitting you, or they aren't hitting you or burning you with cigarettes, then, okay, do what
Yeah. I'm in a similar place with not speaking up unless really, really asked.
Well, it comes to a point, I mean, it depends on how well I know somebody.
Yeah.
If they just keep repeating the pattern, then I might say something. Yeah, I heard that.
Hold for sound.
Then I might say something if you're just constantly in the same relationship or something like that, depending. Yeah, I do that with you. I'm like, do you want to know?
If somebody's complaining to me at a certain point, I feel like I have free reign
Yeah.
because I'm listening to you complain about the same thing again and again and again
and over and over. Yeah.
And I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to ask you, I think what I've done is be like, do you see though how this is like this and like this that you've done before? Do you see that?
Yeah, that's how you do it. You just have to point things out, and then they're going to go down the road they want to go. And that is kind of hard when you love someone as a friend, you know, you want them to be happy, but it's their choice. And then you decide, can I still be around that? You know, I mean, or can I be engaged in that?
Which brings to the light, when people do grow and when people do change and when they do, just like they choose the path that's that's leading them to the best version of themselves. It does happen. It does happen that people figure it out, and that's glorious. It's amazing though how many people don't.
Yeah.
But it's so cool when they do. But you can't hold out for that. You can't. It's like what you were saying earlier about the potential. You know,
that's very true. I really do think that we sometimes miss the people we think they are, or what they were to us, or they could have been.
What they could have been.
I also think, though, you really do have to allow people to show you who they are, and then you have to believe them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because people can talk a good game, but actions really do speak louder than words. They really, really, really do.
And not just who they could have been for you, who they can be in this life for themselves, like take you out of the equation. A lot of people don't give a shit. A lot of people do not have any intention of being the best versions of themselves. And they will go as far as to stab you in the back to get ahead.
That's very true.
It's very sobering.
True. Very sobering.
It's a damn shame.
Is there anything else you want to say about Mercury retrograde or people from the past?
For me, a lot of it is the relational stuff and stuff coming back around, but not just relationships. It's things that you have to revisit, and it's about discernment. It's all those things I'm touching on. Yeah.
I think it's, I do think it's like I said at the beginning, it's when you get through lessons, life lessons, as you grow, those things kind of keep coming back just to make sure that you're making that choice, you know, to go further along. And that can be people, that can be a type of relationship. It can be a lot of things.
It doesn't have to be in the context of Mercury retrograde. That's just kind of a fun way to explore it. Because for a lot of people, that is something that they associate with these life experiences, but it can come around at any time.
But you know what? I'm not as much into astrology. You know, I mean, I think that there are certain. I mean, you're really good at that. Like
but
you
it's
know
patterns for me. Yeah. That's what interests me about it.
I do think there are certain generalities though, with like Virgo, Scorpio, Libra, whatever. I mean, that's kind of
even like taking it like one step further back is like the water signs, the earth signs, the air signs, and the fire signs.
I do think there does seem to be
things that seem to be consistent.
Or like they say, a full moon, people seem to act a little crazier on a full moon. It's something about the water in our bodies. Like, you know.
The celestial bodies have some sort of impact.
Yeah.
Even if it's just enough to move the tides. But that is worthy of note considering how much water we have contained in our cells.
Yeah, aren't we like 85% water or something?
I've heard so many different percentages, but they're all up there. It's everything. It's always at least 75%.
I know it does kind of seem to fluctuate.
Yeah,
the scientific data.
And you know what? Maybe I should take a sip of my water.
That's what I've noticed. I was drinking a lot during this one. Yeah. Was there anything else you want to say?
I'm good.
You're good. Well, I think that was a cool little jaunt. I really enjoyed that.
Okay, good. I hope you guys listening and watching also enjoyed it. And if you have any Mercury retrograde stories, or if you have any interesting stories about exes coming back.
Because they do every time you watch. I think so.
But yeah, that's about it on this episode. Thanks for listening and
Thanks
watching.
for coming back. We'll be back next Wednesday.
If you don't know
Tune
that
in.
by now, you're an idiot. This has been very consistent, except when it's not.
Except because of there's an internet issue,
Except when we
other
take
things.
breaks.
Yeah,
Or
we
there's
do
some
take a
sort of
few.
internet issue.
Yeah.
Did
Anyway,
that happen during Mercury retrograde?
I don't know.
I think it did.
I'm starting to blame everything on Mercury retrograde now.
Well,
though.
that's what some people do, and that annoys me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you just don't want to own your shit. There's a difference.
There's a big difference, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, own your shit. That in conclusion.
On
own
that
your
note,
shit.
yeah, own your shit. All right, love you guys. All right, bye.
Bye.
Salute. All right, bye.